Hi, you all look a lot smaller when I'm sitting amongst you guys. So I read diligently what I write, so I'm just not really going to look up at you large crowd of people. Okay. Well, I'm an artist and this is about art. When I was about 5 years old, I asked my mom to let me make art. I remember her sitting me down on the dining room table and placing a pad of watercolor paper in front of me. She folded a bounty paper towel into quarters and set it beside a clean glass of water and a few, what I later learned to be, quality color watercolor brushes. She then showed me the watercolor palette and thus began my art lesson. In my 5-year-old mind, making art consisted of things like elbow macaroni, glitter, colored paper. To me, the setup that my mom had so generously and meticulously set forth was blasé and paled in comparison to all the potential glitter rainbows I could have been making. These $1 Walmart items seemed to be more prestigious to me than the professional quality Winsor Newton brushes and paints I had been given. I began to verbalize my dissatisfaction with the situation, explaining that my friends got to glue macaroni onto glitter rainbows and that I was stuck with boring paint. My mom lovingly but firmly reminded me that I wasn't one of my friends, she was not one of my friends' mothers, and that she didn't like the mess that all the glue and the glitter left behind. And then my mother showed me how watercolors were anything but boring. I grew up to love painting, though it took many years to overcome a deep-rooted jealousy for anyone possessing glitter, macaroni, or glue. I'm sure you're wondering what this story and these photos have to do with one another. There is a correlation. When my mother handed me those watercolors, she handed me one of the greatest gifts. It wasn't until recently that I recognized that she introduced me to the joy of producing art and the diligence required to grow as an artist. These photos represent what she taught me. 20 years later, I am a producing artist, though I'm kind of poor. These film photos are studies. They illustrate how I see life. Annie Leibovitz, a gifted photographer of the 20th and 21st centuries, once said, "The camera makes you forget you're there. It's like you're hiding, but you forget, and you're just looking so much." Honestly, I wish I was behind a camera right now. A few years ago, I developed an interest in photography. When my aunt and uncle, one of whom is sitting in the audience, learned that I wanted to shoot and film, they kindly let me use their old school film Canon. I was ecstatic. The only problem was it didn't have a functioning light meter. If you don't know anything about cameras or film cameras, which I didn't, it's pretty much a must to have a light meter. Without it, the photographer is lost as to how to set the aperture or adjust the shutter speed, both of which are crucial elements for producing a recognizable and well-exposed photograph. The poor, zealous 23-year-old that I was decided to view this obstacle as an opportunity. One of these things that I've learned from this experience is that producing art isn't about working in an ideal situation. The part of making art, part of the joy of making art, is working with what you have and finding creative solutions to problems. So I learned how to use my phone to calculate the aperture and shutter speed, of course. I downloaded an app and I began taking my camera everywhere with me. I'd go on long drives, I'd get lost, I'd look for new perspectives to photograph. I experienced so many new things, met new people, and learned more about the friends that I already had because I found my newfound passion for photography. The whole process of taking a photo was lengthened because I needed to get out my phone, set the light meter app, transfer the calculations to my camera where I could finally take the photo. What should have been seen as tedious and overworked became an adventure as I began to see these moments as preparation, as moments that I got to spend lingering in the stillness just before my shutter would click and capture the image I saw before me. Over time, I have come to love not just the photography of Annie Leibovitz, but I've realized her mentality behind her photographs is very familiar to me. She once said, "When you are younger, the camera is your friend and you can go places and feel like you're with someone, like you have a companion." That's Joe. He used to go to the coffee shop that I worked at. That quote pretty much summarizes my relationship to photography. When I have a camera, be it film, digital, or even Instagram, I have a friend with me. I have a friend who sees exactly what I see, but who preserves an unbiased image of my perspective on reality. After a few months of setting my phone's light meter to sync with what should have been working in my film cameras, I began to learn how to take a properly exposed photograph on my own. Sometimes they don't come out, and I don't show this to people. And there goes my paper, but we're back. And basically, I'm just going to skip over, and I'm going to talk about how I'm more confident in my photography because I fall more in love with it every day. The deeper I fall in love with it, the more it shows. And I think that photography really is just something that I love. I'm going to skip a little bit because I'm falling behind. But today I look back to how my mom refrained from letting me use typical arts and crafts. Some might see this as an unobliging parent. After all, if your child wants to use such harmless materials like sparkles and stuff, why not let them? Perhaps it would have been unobliging if the child were prohibited from creating art, but that's not what my mother did with me. She took my imagination of what was beautiful and showed me something majestic. She knew all along that I would rather like the challenge of learning with watercolor than repeat the process of glitter and glue. She showed me the joy of creativity, the diligence required to temper my zeal, and preserve my enthusiasm for when I don't feel inspired. When I take photos now, I take them because she taught me how to look through life beautifully. And she's crying. I'm about to, I'm gonna wait. My story with art isn't over, but I'll leave you with a quote that resonates with my personal life, particularly with my personal life as an artist and a daughter. It is the quote from Carl Sandburg, and it says, "Let a joy keep you. Reach out your hands and take it when it runs by." So I guess I'm just gonna sit up here, and there we go.